Back here another Monday, and it is time for Ask Mike, joined by the one and only Mike Irwin. Mike, the transfer portal, kind of a new thing, but man, whenever this thing gets going, it is hot and heavy, but maybe not hot and heavy enough just yet for the fans, right?
Well, it's going to be tough because I read a lot of Facebook stuff. I mean, if somebody wants to be my friend, if they ask to be your friend, first thing I do is look and see if they're a Razorback fan.
Okay.
If they are, I go, yeah, okay. Because I want to be able to go and read what they say to their friends. And you can do it to a lot of different people. And what I keep reading over and over again over the last 2 or 3 days is, how long is this going to go on? Can they just get this over with? I can't stand this. And it's a slow process. It's not going to happen nearly fast enough for you. And I've been talking about this. It's kind of the moment of truth. We talked about his staff, and it was okay, but not necessarily a bunch of eye-opening coaches. Let's see what they can do in the portal. Now, I'll give you a little insight on how this works with me because you talk to different people. Last week, I remember saying on this show and on our PTN Extra podcast that we do on Wednesday, I remember telling, I think it was Evan, that I was told they have the money to compete now. So
Being
they're
the top half of the SEC. Yeah.
Guy comes back just about 2 hours ago because I'm asking him a bunch of questions about what I'm seeing here, and he said, you got way ahead of yourself. I don't know who your source was on that, but it's not what you think it is. They do have more money, but you still got a lot of boosters that are saving their money for basketball because they are convinced that's where the success is. They're not sold on Silverfield yet. Maybe he went out and raised some money on his own, but if he did, this is just what somebody's telling me. That didn't put them in the top half of the SEC. Maybe down there in the middle, better than they were, but not there. So, as we sit here right now on Monday afternoon, I would say there's more negatives to what I'm seeing than positives. That doesn't mean there aren't positives, but you don't have the big name Powell.
Yeah.
This guy's going to come in and really turn things around.
And before we even get into our questions here, people are talking about the rev share and, that's going to equal the playing field. Did you see what Texas Tech did?
Yes.
$5 million, a record-setting NIL deal for a kid from Cincinnati.
Yep.
An offense that wasn't even that good, a team that went 7-5.
Apparently, they didn't bother them to spend $40 million and not win a playoff game. They're going to come back and do it again. I don't know how many years they're going to do this, but they're apparently after it again. And they're not just doing that in football. They signed a 7'1" women's basketball player.
And $1 million softball pitcher.
$1 million softball pitcher. So they got money out there that they're spending. I'm telling you, Arkansas boosters do not do that right now. There's more money, but not as much as maybe I thought. All right, so we can go to our first question, and I'll get into this.
All right, time to get into the questions because Mike Irwin, he's got the answers. There it is. First question here coming from Petrino fan who asks, it's early, but how would you rate Silverfield's portal class, and would Petrino be doing better? Go ahead, Mike, take it away.
There's no way I can know what Petrino would do because he's not going to do it. But I got to believe he would have had an even tougher time than Silverfield because Petrino would be trying to generate money from boosters based on winning no games as the interim head coach. How do you explain that? How do you get somebody to give you money when they sat there and watched every week they saw you lose? So I think that would have been tough. Silverfield, again, there are some early clues here that we need to look at. First of all, we talked about Ian Jeffard. And would he stay, and could they talk him into staying? He's the defensive tackle that sometimes didn't look very good, but he was the starter, one of the 2 starters there.
Massive, too. Biggest kid on the team.
Biggest kid on the team, and they lost him. They couldn't convince him, and he went to Texas. I promise you he didn't go to Texas on a cut rate. I don't know what they're paying him.
Doesn't like the Austin barbecue.
Yeah.
Doesn't like burnt orange.
So he's gone. Then Marion Harris, that's in the last couple of days. They lost their left tackle because of eligibility. He's out of eligibility. Marion Harris was the right tackle, 2-year starter there. And then along with him, a couple of the younger guys that I remember being mentioned that played some last year and they're very encouraged by, they all left.
Jack McCroy.
Yeah, they all left. So what do you do about that? I don't know. But their answer so far is Malachi Breland. He's that kid from Memphis that we watched last year push Arkansas's D-line around, and that was impressive.
Jeffard in particular.
Yeah, he's a good player. But Is he good in the SEC? I don't know. We'll see. But that's what you're going to see a lot of. They're bringing a lot of Memphis players in here. They're bringing in a backup quarterback out of Memphis. They're bringing in a wide receiver out of Memphis. So they're going to go tap into players they know. And when this is all said and done, how many big names are you going to have? Are you going to go out? Here's the one area where I'm really got to keep an eye on, running back. You've got Braylon Russell coming back as the only real experienced back coming back. He's a kind of a power back. He's got more speed than maybe you think he does, but he's a power back. Okay, so they're bringing in the kid from Memphis that was the speed back that we all saw. He broke that game open right at the end with that long 70-yard run or whatever it was, and he is fast. But he's not a 12 to 15 carry a game running back. He's more like 7 or 6. So that would seem to be a good work with Braylon Russell.
Thunder and lightning kind of thing.
Yeah, a thing like that, but you still got to have more. Here's where I think you may see somebody coming in with a big name. Because of the running backs coach, this guy has a reputation of going out and finding 4- and 5-star running backs. And there's a lot of them out there right now. So let's see in the next 2 or 3 days if we don't hear maybe even a couple of big-name backs come in. So that would get fans a little bit more excited. You got in the secondary Christian Harrison. His dad was 2-time All-Pro, comes from good stock and all that. He went to Tennessee, didn't play much, so he ends up at Cincinnati where he plays a lot. He's a good player. I don't know that he's a great player. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Played a big role there as safety and as a nickel.
Yeah,
player.
so these are the sort of things we're talking about. Arkansas I don't think has a real need, a gigantic need at wide receiver. That's probably the best room with people coming back, but you still got to have some. So they go get Memphis' second leading receiver, a guy that had about, I don't know, what did he have, 600 yards in receptions, a couple of touchdowns. So, you know, this is not going to get too many Arkansas fans excited. And if this is it in the final analysis, you don't have any choice but to accept this because it's not going to change if they don't have the money. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the first guy was right and the second guy telling me this is wrong. But I look at the evidence and it's starting to look like they're having to be very selective on what they offer. And I'll give you another example. Okay, you got K.J. Jackson. I don't know what they're paying him, but he's the guy they want. He's their starter, but they need other people. So we kept hearing about this East Carolina quarterback with good numbers. Brett Bielema got him at Illinois. I was told that he got him because he offered him so much money that if Arkansas matches that, they're going to have to give K.J. Jackson a lot more or he's going to leave. So see, you're having to make these decisions based on money. Yeah. And that may be what they're dealing with.
How about Bielema? 19 wins the last 2 years and doing so.
Yeah.
There was a time where Arkansas.
And I'm a little bit surprised that Barry Lunny hasn't gotten a head coaching job yet out of that. I don't know what's going on there. I know he wants one.
A couple things to take from this. Memphis players have to wait and see. I think we're getting close to around that 5 Memphis players so far. Right. Maybe that ends up being 10. There does seem to be a pathway to new coach, brings in his players with multiple years of eligibility remaining, most famously Curt Cignetti at Indiana. And it wasn't just one-hit wonders from JMU.
Sure.
It was guys that had 2 years of eligibility left and that he had identified that they could play at the Big Ten level.
And it doesn't mean they can't compete. We see it happen over and over again. Will all of them do that? No, I don't think they'll all be a big hit, but I think some of them will turn out. But again, we got a ways to go. This thing runs all the way out almost to the end of January. And so if this is driving you nuts, start watching basketball and paying attention to that because this is going to go on for a while.
All right, now I do see you have a note here on the kickers, and that ties right into our next question. So let's flash it up here. Dan Conley wants to know, we lose our place kicker. Dude was going to be a stud. Trains with Cam Little in the offseason. You're talking about Scott Starzik, rated by some to be the #1 kicker in the nation. And yeah, he missed some big kicks. But Mike, to me, it felt like he had a pretty good year.
Yeah, he did. What made this a little weird is you get the announcement of these 2 new kickers coming in while Starzyk is still here. And there'd been no announcement that he was leaving.
I believe over the weekend he had pledged his commitment to Arkansas.
Yeah. So at first you're going, all these people are going, what, we need 3 kickers now? Are you people crazy? What are you doing? You wasting scholarships, spending money or whatever? Well, after that announcement was made, then Starzyk about an hour or 2 later came out and announced he was leaving. Okay, so here's what I was told happened. You got Max Gilbert, who was Tennessee's starting kicker for 2 straight years. Pretty good numbers. Maybe percentage of kicks made, not quite what Starzyk had, but pretty close. And they felt like, okay, he's got 2 years experience, so this kid's got 1. He'll come here for less money. And apparently that's what the issue was here. Starzyk said, look, we're negotiating. I want a little more. Somebody else is offering me this. What do you do? And they just made a simple decision. One's about as good as the other. We'll go with the one that costs less. Now, this other kid, what's his name? Braden McAllister. People got confused about him. He's coming in from Georgia Southern, Georgia, somewhere like that. He's a kickoff guy. He's got a strong leg.
Which is what Jake Bates did whenever Cam Little was here, correct?
So that's what they needed. So he was coming in here anyway. The only good additional thing to him is he's kicked a 60-yard field goal. If you look at his numbers, he's not as accurate, but he's kicked a 60-yard field goal, so I'm thinking maybe if you get in a situation where you got to absolutely have a 55-yard plus field goal, maybe you bring him on in a kind of a desperation move. So it gives them, maybe what they want. But I don't think that particular exchange is necessarily bad news. If you can do that, and this is what it looks like Silverfield's having to do, if you can go, wait a minute, he wants this guy over here is costing me this, yeah, I'll just go with this guy. It's like bargain shopping, right? As long as you feel like you're getting the same quality.
The only red flag I have, a minor red flag, it's like, what are you doing dinking around with the special team stuff? I know it's a third of the game. I understand it. You have to make big kicks, but it feels like there's way bigger holes on this team than a base kicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that's just one example of why I think maybe they got a little bit of a money problem.
All right. Money is a big-time topic, and speaking of money, the kid they called the Golden Boy, Kane Archer, why is he getting snubbed by Arkansas? That's up next on Ask Mike. Back here on Ask Mike, a whole lot to get to. The transfer portal now open for business. Arkansas on the cusp of being ranked in the top 10 in men's hoops. And we're diving right back into your questions. Next question here coming from River Valley Football wants to know why the snub of Kane Archer. Silverfield is supposed to be all about keeping the best in-state talent. Mike, Kane Archer did an interview with Peyton Hillis and myself. Outstanding kid. He is so polished, so put together. And my big takeaway, he wants to be a Razorback.
Even to the point of indicating at one point, it seemed like he was saying, you don't really have to give me money, I'll just come on a scholarship.
I just want an opportunity.
Now, what I was told is there was a booster, a Razorback booster, that was willing to put up some pretty good money to bring him in here. Now, if that's true, that's really puzzling, especially if you consider, again, you went after a backup and didn't get him because it was going to cost you too much money. I think they went after a second option there and lost him. It was going to cost you too much money. So right now you've got this quarterback from Memphis who was a true freshman, and that's it. And you don't want to go with Kane Archer. The only thing I can conclude, and I talked to somebody I trust, he said, look, there are so many good quarterbacks out there right now looking for a new job that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. They're not the big knockout names, but they're the kind of quarterback that could come in, and if your starter got hurt, maybe they could step in and play a game or two. He said, I just think they feel like they're looking at that big field of opportunities and saying, well, we can get him or him or him, and they're looking at that, and that's why I personally think what they may be doing here, let's let Kane Archer get out at Utah and see what he can do. I mean, if he proves himself out there and still wants to come back here, I think then you go, yeah, you can come back now. You've answered all of our questions. I saw a really good podcast about this. I wish I could remember the name of the high school coach, but it was a high school coach that had coached against Kane Archer for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And he did this breakdown, this video breakdown showing his strengths and weaknesses, and it was fascinating. Among other things, it mostly showed him up against Shiloh Christian, which had a really good defense. And he said, look, he's not a kid that's going to throw the ball 65 yards in the air on a dime and hit a receiver and bomb. It's a 70-yard touchdown. But he can do it for 35 or 40 yards, and he's accurate, and his arm is accurate. He said he's also really good under pressure. He'll make the quick decision. You're coming at him from both sides. He's got a receiver that pops open right off the line of scrimmage. Boom, it's right out there to him. He's the opposite of Taylon Green. He can process things fast. So that's part of it is good. The two negatives were, number one, when he runs, and he's a good runner, too careless with the football. You would think that could be corrected pretty easily.
Yeah, but you wonder how that translates when the speed of the game gets a lot faster.
Could be. He's not thinking about it, so they'd have to get him away from that habit. The other criticism was sometimes on timing routes where you really have to throw the ball at a precise time, he's a little bit late. And when you do that, especially on something like a wheel route, you can get a pick in the SEC. You wait just a little bit too late, then you throw it. Here's a defensive back that sees what you're doing, and boom, he's going the other direction. So I thought it was a good evaluation, negative and positive. Kind of helped me understand some of the issues there. But again, I think to me, they're just waiting. If he really wants to play here, let him go out and prove himself there, and then we'll bring him back if he wants to come back.
I've only met Kane one time, speak very highly of him, super professional, wish him nothing but the best. Is it simply this, though, Mike? Does the coaching staff view him, and keep in mind, all his records, he had a 38-game win streak in the state of Arkansas, 38-1 his final record, only lost the game in the state championship this past year. Only game he ever lost to starter. Does the coaching staff look at it and say, hey, there's deficiencies with his talent, and we know the Greenwood kid, the in-state superstar, KJ Jackson's going to throw a pick or two, and then this kid who's our third-string quarterback, everybody in the stands is going to want him to play, and we don't want that show here.
Yeah, it could be that. You'd have to be in the room when they're discussing that to know what all's involved here. But I just think they want more proof that he can transition to the college level.
Have to wait and see what happens at Utah. I don't know their transfer situation, kind of walking onto campus there with the Utes currently as their third-string quarterback. Again, there could be some attrition in the transfer portal. Maybe he gets a little higher up. Next question here coming from Just Win, who asks, why is LSU messing with Carious Curne? He says they are holding his paperwork to keep him from hitting the portal. Can they actually do that?
Okay, that was a question from Saturday, and Sunday that got answered. I don't know what the issue was there, but he got that worked out. And so now he's in the portal. You would not believe the pressure on Arkansas to land this kid. Here's the problem. Ole Miss wants him, and I think he's visiting Ole Miss today. I think On3 is projecting him going to Missouri.
Correct.
And I think he may go there next. And I think, again, what I'm hearing is they expect both of those schools to offer him more money than Arkansas has to offer him. Now, maybe that's not true.
I don't like hearing that.
Yeah, that's what I heard. He can command some bucks, and that they're not going to pay $1.5 or $2 million for a tackle. They just don't have that kind of money. And I could be wrong about that, and they could end up with him. But as we sit here right now, that's the big question. If they land him, this portal class suddenly brightens up a lot. If they don't, then now you're going, okay, we got this guard from Memphis. Who else are we going to go get? There is an LSU, and I have his name here, Paul Mabinga.
Brother, yeah.
And his brother has already signed here. I don't know if he signed, I can't remember if he signed in the early signing period or if he signed in that portal period right after Silverfield was hired. But he has already signed, so he's here. And he's coming in with his brother. My guess is they got him. He's not rated as high, as his former teammate. I think they'd need some work to get him ready to go. And I don't know that he can be one of those tackles, but they may not have a choice. So, again, it's going to be a while before we know. They'll get this class together, then they'll all go through the off-season program and won't hear very much. And then we'll get into spring football and we'll watch some of these guys. And then we'll go through the summer and then we'll go through August camp. And then the moment of truth arrives. And it's a long way off. So I'm just telling you, unless you're just nuts about this stuff, start paying attention to basketball. It's really good right now. Baseball coming up. You got other things you can put your mind on.
And so Mike Yurachek made it a point when he fired Pittman to say, hey, we're going to have a better financial package. Said it again whenever he hired Silverfield. We're going to have the finances to compete. I know deep down you're a fan. You love Arkansas. You've built your life here. Does it bother you if you keep on hearing, well, Arkansas isn't going to offer this player that they want the money that he wants, and he goes somewhere else?
Yeah, because
it's not your money.
But I'm asking, what is the holdup on the money? You know, and is it because you've still got boosters out there that they're not looking at this the way the Texas Tech boosters do, the way the A&M boosters do, the way the LSU boosters. They're looking at a head coach and going, we don't necessarily think you did the right thing here. If you'd have got us somebody bigger, a bigger name, somebody we could get really behind, maybe we'll spend more money. And I'm not saying they're all like that, because I do think he's got more money, and I think he raised some of it himself. It's just that it's starting to look like he doesn't have as much as I thought he had to work with.
This is the game. You don't have to like it, but money is now college football. Next question here coming from PG Hog 1, who wants to know, with the Link U starting up for the U of A athletes, can't the administration hold a press conference about it, or is it going to be another disconnect between fans and the athletic department? You would think they would want to get the word out.
I do think these fan collectives are better than the ones they had before. They've improved that situation. One is more of a fan collective, the other is more of a booster collective. The way the fan collective works is they're out there doing everything they can to figure out ways to get money from fans to contribute so that the money is available to, if one of these athletes wants to do an NIL deal with a company, they'll pay for it, you know. The other is a company it's fairly new. There are only 4 or 5 teams that have, athletic departments that have picked them so far, but they have one of them is I think A&M, and if the theory is if the
Link U, which is who Arkansas announced a formal press release last week.
If the Aggies like this, it must be good. Now what they do is they're very good at finding companies that want to use you, that have the money to give. Mm-hmm. This is supposedly the reason Yurachek would like this is not supposedly some booster secretly giving money so this guy can have enough so you can get him. It maybe is a company that is willing to do this because they feel like these athletes will bring a return to them. So it's more of a traditional NIL. And I think what they're hoping is that this new thing which is still in question, it's not being enforced now. Nobody knows if it's going to be. What's going to happen is the House going to step in and protect these schools from being sued if they enforce these lower NIL deals. But if it does change a little bit, maybe what will happen is the Power 4 committee that's supposedly reducing this NIL money will look at some of these things and say, hey, yeah, that's a real legitimate NIL deal. And so it's okay. I mean, I'm projecting into the future. I don't know. But the original question is this: why are they not talking about it? It's a mistake. Your athletic director has something that potentially could really help. And we're just finding out about this sort of with a release or something? He should have press conferences and explain why he likes it. Explain why it's good. Explain the two collectives and how they work hand in hand, because I saw the guy that started the fan collective, he's saying, oh no, we like these guys too, because some people thought one of them was going to go away with the big one announced. He said, no, we're all in this thing together. Well, bring them both in there. Bring a representative from this one collective and have the guy that started the other one where media can interview them. Yurachek's in there. When Frank Broyles was the AD and you as a reporter had a question like this, you simply went to Donita Hubbard, who was his secretary, and said, man, I want to ask Frank questions about this. And she'd go, okay. And then she'd tell you, okay, come back in an hour, come back in 2 hours, he'll do it. And then we had it. And anybody that wanted it had it. Okay, we don't do that anymore. We have press conferences. But Yurachek doesn't have press conferences, not nearly enough. And he would do himself a favor, I promise you, if he would start talking about these things. And we in the media, I don't really care myself. Honestly, I don't. but it's my job to make sure the public is informed. And this is the only way I can help them be informed, is to get a press conference going and go in there and ask the right questions, and then they can watch it online or whatever they want to do, and then they know. And right now, we just don't have enough of that.
I think you nailed it. There has been a disconnect. There needs to be more of a voice from the football program, from the athletic administration, from everybody connected to Arkansas athletics. They've got to be more forward-facing. I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah.
Next question here coming from Hill Country Hog, who says, should I even care if Dabo Swinney is dumb enough to bring Chad Morris back to Clemson? I don't know, but it makes me mad. Do I need help? A lot of Arkansas fans probably mad about that one.
Okay, I would say to him, you have Chad Morris derangement syndrome. And there's a lot of Razorback fans that have it. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe you should just say to yourself, he's never coming back here. He doesn't affect us. I don't care where he goes. But I think if you polled most Razorback fans, and they don't go back to 1894, but they would tell you he's the worst head coach in the 134-year history of the school. I can't really say that because
the worst in the history of the SEC.
Yeah, I didn't cover some of those guys in 1908 or 1902 or 3. 08 was actually a good year, but he's as bad as I've been around, and it was just. It's hard for me. Some people used to ask me, what was wrong with him? And I'd go, I don't know. He didn't have a good staff. He said things, and then you find out later on he didn't really mean what he said, and this wasn't really happening, and it was just a mess. And the bottom line is it got so bad that after they lost that, was it Western Kentucky?
Tie Story, Western Kentucky.
Once they
didn't
lost,
lose, they got blown out.
Once they lost that game to Western Kentucky, bunch of us went into the locker room and we were told by players in there, we lost this game in order to get him fired because we want him out of here. In other words, we're willing to lose a game to get rid of this guy. And that's when Barry Lenny Jr. was made the interim head coach for 2 games. So, what do you do about it? Look, Dabo Swinney, when Chad Morris was there, I think he was the offensive coordinator, they won a national championship.
They had Deshaun Watson. They did win a national title.
But people have told me that he wasn't the main reason why that happened. They had good talent. They had good coaches around him, and that Morris wasn't the only offensive coach that knew what he was doing. And then what happened was he gets that SMU job out of that, and it's nothing. I don't know why everybody thought we'd bring him here. Jerry Jones should be stoned for that. We should ask him for another $10 million just for what he did. We're going to hold you hostage.
Feels like the program's still fighting out of that era.
Yeah, they are. And so you owe us $10 million just for what you did there. I've never heard him apologize for that, by the way, although some people claim he didn't really say hire him, he just suggested him. But again, it's funny when you think about it. I guarantee if you polled most Razorback fans that remember that era, they're going to say, Now, here's what I will say. I could be wrong. I'll admit it if I'm wrong, but I think Dabo Swinney is it's almost like he's got a death wish. At one time, he was right up there with Nick Saban. It was LSU, Clemson, and Alabama right there. And look where they are now. And is he just trying to ruin himself? Because I think this hire is going to blow up in his face.
And he won't adapt to modern college football with some of the things. NIL, the transfer portal, they just seem to be way far behind the times. All right, not done yet on Ask Mike. Have to take a time out. We're back with more of your questions right after the break. Back with more of your questions on Ask Mike and diving right back into it. Next question here coming from Hog Redneck, who asks, I would hate to be an Ole Miss fan right now. They are a win away from playing for a national championship, and everything is about Lane Kiffin and LSU. That is so wrong.
Yeah, it's complicated to explain what's going on right now. It's actually the Ole Miss athletic director that really stepped in, because Kiffin wanted to coach these guys. He was perfectly willing to leave his staff there. He could still monitor what was going on with the portal for LSU, go back and coach these guys, and as long as it took.
There is a conflict of interest there, if I may.
There is.
There's a reason why that can't happen.
And so Ole Miss's AD went, wait a minute, we can't do this. And he was initially against any of these coaches that went to LSU coming back. But some people got to him and said, come on, it's unfair to these players. you still got to have somebody in here to coach them. So their offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., came back. I think the running backs coach is there and some others. So they win this game. And then we hear more rumors. Okay, that's it, though. Now, from now on, it's not none of them. Well, that didn't turn out to be true. So what's going on here? Is Ole Miss's AD nuts, or is he the bad guy? Put yourself in his position, because here's what he knows. He knows that no matter what happens, good, bad, lose this next game, make it to the championship game, win the whole thing, whatever. When it's over, those coaches are all going to LSU, and most of their good players are going to LSU. And guess what happens next year? The very first SEC game in September, LSU comes to Oxford. And he's sitting there thinking to himself, they're going to come in here and kill us. I mean, what are we going to do? So I can see why he's got mixed emotions about this stuff. The one guy that's kind of come out and made this a little bit acceptable is Golding. Because here's a guy that when he first got announced as the head coach, and they didn't name him interim, they made him the head coach. Mm-hmm. And I can see why after watching him. He's impressive. He hasn't gotten involved in any of the controversy. He hasn't criticized Kiffin, hasn't criticized any players or any of that. And when they've played well and won, he's put it all on them. It's not me, it's them. He's the kind of guy they need. And I just have a feeling he's going to succeed. Now, I don't think he's going to have the kind of team they had this year. It may take him a while to get it back. But what we do know is that unlike Arkansas, Ole Miss does have a really good collective. They do have a good booster system, and they can get the money going again. So it may take him a while to build it back up to where it was, but I think Ole Miss will now continue to be a factor in SEC football.
What's the solution? Not to make Lane Kiffin a martyr. I mean, he is who he is, but this is a tough spot for him, and it's the college football calendar. What would you rather see? One portal only in the spring, so call it maybe April 1st to April 30th, or move the season up a week or two, get this all done by January 1st?
That's the problem. I like the idea that they're doing the portal, no longer doing the portal after spring football. That was a disaster. But yes.
But what if that was the only portal, was in spring football?
I still think coaches would have an issue with it. Maybe if you do the portal at about the time you do the final high school signing period, which is what, February, early February?
The second signing period used to be mid-February. I don't even know when it is now because so many of the preps are committed in early December now.
But somewhere like that might be better. It's not good where it is now. I mean, think about this. I mean, you're still trying to bring people in third week of January. Well, you're supposed to already be enrolled in school by then if you're coming.
Yeah, look at like what Indiana and Ole Miss, Georgia not necessarily a portal school, but they have to do this too. Miami also not necessarily a portal school, but they're in the Final Four. Indiana and Ole Miss in particular, they're preparing for Final Four games, and they're signing big-time players out of the portal. A lot of balls in the air kind of at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult. So maybe they need to look at adjusting beyond where it is right now. Let's get it past the playoffs.
I would like to see, nobody cares what I think, but I'll throw it out there anyways, move up the season 1 week. I don't like the idea of moving it up 2 weeks. I think it's kind of a bummer for fans. Those games are too hot. So just 1 week, play the semifinals on January 1st. So then the portal opens January 2nd. There's only 2 teams.
Yeah, I got to correct what I said because sometimes I say stuff and it makes no sense. You couldn't move it back into February. You got to get these guys on campus and get them in the program.
Which is why, so again, part of my plan
Yeah,
here.
you got to move everything
So
up.
let's move the OTAs, OTAs, that's the coin NFL term, spring football, to May 1st. So right at the end of the semester, you get 3 weeks of spring practice, call it 2-3 days a week. So I don't know, about, 11, 12 days, maybe it is. Portal, April 1st, April 30th. That's the only one you got. Kids are on campus for spring football in May.
Either that or you move the playoffs up. You start them sooner and get it over with by just like they used to. January 1st used to be it. If you did that January 1st, January 2nd, that would be good too. But it's not working the way it is now.
And then they're talking about, 16 teams, potentially multiple buys, but whatever. Let's just say 16 teams, no buys. That's 4 extra games. You're playing all December long. That's a lot. It feels like it would be a little.
Yeah, if they had more teams, it could get worse. And I'm an advocate of that. So.
But they'll make more money.
Yeah,
And that's
but I
all
think
they care
I
about.
would change the portal thing too. If you put me in charge, we talked about this with what Cal did, but I just say, man, come on, bring it on. Let's fight you guys. I'm tired of all this lawsuit stuff.
I hope we got something coming with Cal going on that unbelievable rant 1 week ago. Shout out to Hayden Herrera there doing some
You
dirty
got
work.
him to talk about it.
Next question here. We're moving on to basketball, where the Razorbacks 1-0 in SEC play after a hard-fought win over Tennessee on Saturday. T.L. Slayton saying, "You keep saying that we have to keep Brazil at his best to win these big games, but he has trouble against physical teams like Tennessee. He scored just 7 points against them, so how do we win?" Hey, shout out Trevor Brazil. It's some good minutes. I know he didn't score, but, man, he's playing hard.
Because scoring is not the only thing that you have to look at. I mean, when he scored big points. But he did other things. I mean, he blocked shots. He was getting assists. He was just doing things that you need to do. There's a lot of reasons why they won that game. But let's start with the bigs, the three bigs compared to their three bigs, because that's where I worried that Arkansas would get dominated. And I think Arkansas's three bigs actually out-rebounded their three bigs. Tennessee had a slight advantage with rebounds in the paint, but I think if you just looked at the three bigs, Arkansas out-rebounded them. I know they had more block shots, 6-2. And scoring, they kind of kept Tennessee scoring down. I think they scored 22. Arkansas scored 21. A lot of that was Ewan scoring 12 points, and he got a lot of his from the line. Now, remember, what game was that where he missed all those free throws and he blamed it on himself?
Against Houston.
Houston, blamed it on himself.
I think he missed 9.
Yeah, blamed it on himself. Well, he obviously went and everyone said, he needs to get in the gym and just shoot free throws. Apparently that's what he did because he's been hitting free throws a lot lately. The one thing I didn't take into consideration, Arkansas used its quickness to get to the line a lot more than Tennessee did, and I think they outscored them by 17 net extra points from the line. That alone is the game right there. But here's where the game was decided. And we can talk about, I think Arkansas had 4 players in double figures, even though only 2 scored most of the points. You get 4 guys in double figures, you're doing all right. It's balanced. But when Acuff goes down with cramps because he played his butt off, and I don't know when it was, 8-9 minutes to go.
He was unbelievable.
He's over there, they're working with his legs. I'm thinking, how long is he going to be out? If they can't bring him back soon, they're in trouble because they were already down 1 when it happened. Well, he's out 3 or 4 minutes. When he comes back, they're down 7. And then it takes him a couple of minutes to kind of get back into the flow. But then from the 3.5-minute mark on, he scored 11 points in just 3.5 minutes. And that really was the difference in the game. I think Tennessee was exhausted at that point. He'd had a little bit of a rest, and he exploded. He's still your guy. And everybody's now talking about this, and I think they're right. He is the absolute best true freshman basketball player ever at this school. I mean, there have been some that were good, but not this good as true freshmen. Moncrief, none of them. He's just amazing.
You're talking about all that NIL money they're going to basketball. They got to pony up. Get this kid a payday. Keep him in school 1 more year.
I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. Looks like he's destined to be a top 10 pick, but man, enjoy him while we have him. What do we have? I think 8 home games left. It could be a very special year for Arkansas basketball. Not out of time just yet. Final break here on Ask Mike. Back here on Ask Mike, talking Razorback basketball after what feels like maybe their biggest win of the season and taking down Tennessee. Cajun Hog says, "I thought Tennessee would win when Darius went down with leg cramps in the second half. Not only did he come back, he destroyed them in the final 2 minutes of that game. I still worry that Cal has to depend on him too much."
Well, again, in this game, he was big, but he was still surrounded by a good cast. 4 guys in double figures. All those guys getting rebounds, all those guys getting block shots are just a lot of ways to win a basketball game. So I don't think he was a one-man team, and I don't think if he's all you've got, you're not going to win a game like this. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think you need to be encouraged by the fact that several other players are stepping up. Malik Thomas is starting to play better. Looks like Carter Knox is kind of coming around now. I don't know. It's going to be game to game, and I think it's wrong to judge somebody based on this game and that game. Wagner, for instance, you hear a lot of people say, what's happened to him? You know, he's
They got
pretty.
two really good guards on the roster. That's what's
He's
happening.
pretty remarkable. A lot of guys, if they have been around for 2 years and now it's his third year, and you bring this freshman in, and he's getting all the attention, you're going to get mad about that. He hadn't seemed to be affected by that at all, and he's averaging in double figures. So he's not like he's out there laying an egg. He has some games better than others. But they're all, I think all of them are starting to come around a little bit, and they're doing it at the right time. So I don't think it's a one-man team.
It is not. They're really deep. You know, their top 7, 8 guys are probably as good as any collection of 7, 8 players in the country. And as I mentioned there, they got the makings. This really could be a special team. Next question here coming from Hal Fleming, who asks, is Malik Thomas back? I think SEC play got his attention. Got my fingers crossed that he can keep it up. Sensational against James Madison. He really torched him.
Yeah, that's where he started coming back, but that was with points. And that's all he did in that game. I mean, in that game, he had 0 assists, 2 rebounds, no steals, and committed 4 fouls, almost fouled out in that game. What I liked in this game, just 18 points instead of 28, 3 steals, a huge assist, was really important at the time. 3 rebounds and just 3 fouls, wasn't in foul trouble. That tells me he's starting to get more comfortable where he can play a more complete game. He's not just focusing, oh man, I got to hit 3-pointers. I'm supposed to hit 3-pointers. Now I think he's relaxed, and it's allowed him to play a more complete game. Again, they need Brazil, they need other players, but those 2 freshman guards, I've said it all year, they are the key to how far this team can go. They both have to be playing well.
Yeah, and man, there's been times when they've both A-cuffed certainly more consistently, but early in the year, certainly that James Madison game, Malik Thomas can really flash. Kentucky Hog, our next question on the board here. The Blue Nation fans had their trap shut for now. Kentucky lost, we won. I hope it stays that way.
Well, it's interesting to read the message boards from Kentucky fans because they're really down on Pope again. It's like they go back and forth with this guy. He was down, then they started making a comeback, won a few games in a row. They looked really good. And here's what I would say about that. Don't judge them on this, what happened to them against Alabama. Arkansas has got to go play Alabama at Alabama. Let me tell you something. You're going to find out how good they are. They're good.
Yeah, Nate Oates, tremendous coach.
Nate Oates, a good coach. They've got a tremendous 3-point shooter. They've got a guy that can beat you off the dribble and go all day long to the rim. There's a lot of ways they can beat you. What happened to Kentucky in this game is they just got outshot. They didn't shoot well from 3, and these guys will murder you if you don't cover up from beyond the arc, which Kentucky didn't do, and I think they ran out of gas. I think part of the problem with Kentucky this year, and what did he spend on them? $20 million on this basketball team? That's a lot for a basketball team.
You only got, 13 to 15 guys on the whole roster, 7 or 8 that play.
And that's the criticism, was that he spent all this money. Some have said, and I'm reading again some of these Kentucky media people, they feel like he didn't get chemistry. You can get a bunch of guys. The chemistry has to be good. He's had injuries. Some of these guys, most of them are back, although he's not starting what some people feel like is his best player. I still think they could come on. I'm not just assuming this is going to be a bust for them, but I understand the frustration. I got a friend in the media, I won't say who he is, but he's scared that Cal's going to go back there because he thinks Arkansas is not showing enough. You know, you got to get more people in the arena. Well, there were plenty of people in there on Saturday, so I don't think he's going back there. But I think a lot of those Kentucky fans are now having second thoughts about him being gone.
Hey, in Arkansas, people paying big money for those tickets. And even though the games against like Jackson State and Queens are not showing up, those tickets are still bought and paid for. They show up, they show out against Louisville, against Tennessee.
I know a guy that decided to go. He doesn't have season tickets, but he felt like there would be some available because the students are gone.
And there were. That happened.
Okay. So he said, I'm going to go see if I can get a couple of tickets for me and my wife. He called me back and said, nope. I said, what? And he said, it's going to cost $225, and that's without a parking pass. He said, I can't afford that. $225 for one game. Oh, man, it's gotten expensive to go to those basketball games.
It has. It certainly, which is why, you know, it's a bummer that the non-marquee games, all those tickets, as I mentioned there, they're accounted for, but people aren't showing up. There's opportunities that people want to take their families. For a family of 3, 4, 5, that game against Queens, and it's a bummer that people aren't showing up to use those tickets.
Yep, it is.
You also mentioned the chemistry thing. Incredible what Cal does, because, a lot of people just think, well, one and done and recruits and 18-year-old freshmen and whatnot. He doesn't get enough credit. Look how he's built this roster. A guy like DJ Wagner, who is not bothered by Malik Thomas and Darius Akoff coming in. You bring in 22, 23-year-olds like Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan, the right fits for your roster. Trevin Brazil, a guy that's really embraced the culture, embraced what it's been. Cal has proven to be a master builder of a roster.
Exactly. He's gotten guys to accept, and I think it's because of the way he coaches, the way he talks to them. It's not, you have to do this. You will do this now. It's like he uses logic.
He tells them if you don't do it, you're going to be on the bench. And there's not a whole lot of coaches that have the cachet that can get away with that, but he is one of those guys. Final question of the week here coming from Jackson Hoops, who says, Cal and Barnes, that's Rick Barnes, Tennessee, seem pretty close. Both are players-type coaches. Seems like there are fewer in-your-face coaches these days like Muss and Beard at Ole Miss. Which do you like?
Well, if you're talking about me as a reporter, there's no question I'd rather cover a guy like Cal because he's easier to
Give me the charisma, yeah.
Yeah, well, and he's easier to deal with. Here's the problem with Musselman. When Arkansas lost, you couldn't get him to say anything. He'd be at these press conferences, and of course, a lot of times in those days, I think he went back through COVID, and they did some things after COVID that kind of carried it on too long. But he had these things where it was just him and a camera, a portable computer with a camera in it in a room, and so it's right here. And then he would just be. You couldn't see him. His head would go further down and further down. You'd look like it's like he was trying to hide under the desk. And no matter what question you asked, you were getting gibberish for an answer. He was just telling you nothing. And so nobody likes that. That's his big issue with the media. Now, if I'm talking about a player, it's up to the individual player. I always use DJ Williams as an example because it's the best one I can remember. He started off playing for Houston Nutt, really liked Nutt. And he will tell you that when Bobby Petrino came in, he wanted to leave. This guy's nuts. Yeah. He's like the total opposite of, I think they expected maybe somebody to come in and be a little more strict, but he went over the top. And he thought about leaving, but he said, I was a Razorback. I just couldn't do it. And he said, I'm glad I didn't leave. Because what I learned in playing under him was that he made me better. He became a Mackey Award winner. He got to the NFL. And I think he believes to this day that wouldn't have happened if Petrino hadn't pushed him, and pushed him. So my answer to that is there's no one way to do this. You have to coach the way you coach. I remember being at a press conference in Old Barn Hill years ago, and Bob Holt asked this question. And Arkansas was getting ready to play Houston, and Guy Lewis, he had the recruits. He had Elijah Wan and all these guys. What'd they call? They had a name for those guys.
Clyde Drexler as well.
Yeah, all those guys. And Eddie Sutton just had this precision pattern team that played man defense, and I would watch him work these guys out, and he'd stop every 5 seconds. You did this wrong. You did that wrong. It was like a lesson in how to do everything correctly. And so the image was that you had this one coach who was just relentless on X's and O's. And you had the other guy just got a lot of good players and threw the ball out on the court in practice, say, go play. That was the view. It's just, it's a pickup game at practice every day. And Eddie Sutton stopped Bob and he said, you don't know anything about Guy Lewis. Have you gone to any of his practices? I bet you haven't. He said, he's got his own way of doing things, but he works them. And he said, here's the bottom line. I couldn't coach the way he does. If I tried, I'd lose. He couldn't coach the way I do. If he tried, he'd lose. We each have to do what we do. But don't disrespect somebody that's winning because they're winning for a reason. There's nobody out there that wins just because they recruits. There has to be more than just recruiting. Because if that were the case, you wouldn't need a coach. You'd just get some guy to bring in the best players and say, go over to the gym every day and work out and do it on your own.
I think that's overlooked with a lot of this NIL talk, basketball, but even more so football. It's like, well, hey, we went out, we got this, we have all this money now, we have all these players. Well, why aren't we winning? Well, look at Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher. They didn't have the right guy in charge.
Yeah, and look at Texas Tech, even though they don't get the message.
Joey McGuire doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, but look at, they got all that money, but they lost in the playoffs. I told my buddy out there, I said, you guys have one thing that Arkansas doesn't have. You have played in a playoff game. Arkansas never has. But you're 0-1, and you spent $40 million. And what did Arkansas spend? 15? Come on. But they're going to do it again.
And they think they got the quarterback. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
They're going to be even better. And maybe they will be.
Maybe. But I'm pulling against them. I don't like that idea that all you have to do, I think, when you look at teams that are really, Texas got plenty of money. They didn't make the playoffs. I don't think they will next year. They're already declaring Arch Manning the Heisman guy next year. That's not going to happen.
That happened this year. Well, look, I will say this. I know money's kind of ruined college sports, but I'd much rather be a fan of Texas Tech with what they're doing than looking at Arkansas and trying to do more with less.
Yeah,
and I know you don't like where college sports are either.
Yeah, I don't.
But you'd rather be a fan of an operation like that.
Well, I mean,
it's more fun.
I think you have no choice with the system the way it is right now to, yes, embrace it and go, yeah, somebody needs to give all this money. But I'm hoping they will solve that problem. And again, what did Cal say the other day? He wasn't talking about the portal and money necessarily. He was talking about the NCAA allowing this kid that had been drafted to come back and play. But he's basically saying, look, here's what happened to the NCAA and the College Sports Commission and all these people that are supposed to be running stuff. Every time they come up with a solution, some shady agent with a shady lawyer steps in and says, we're going to sue you. And he said, when are we going to step forward and say, okay, sue us. We don't care. We'll sue you back. Now, that's not the answer because it'll take too long. We've seen that. It'll be in the courts forever. There is a bill in front of Congress that will protect schools from any kind of lawsuits when they reduce this high-dollar NIL spending. It's there. It just has to be passed. Cal said something that I think is accurate. It's no longer up to these administrators in the college sports to go and ask those people for help. It's up to us, the coaches. Who's going to have more of an effect? If Cal calls up the congressman, the various congressmen here in Arkansas, and I think there's 4 of them, 4 districts, call them up, talk to them, and say, get this thing through. He's going to have more of an impact than just some administrator from college basketball or football.
There's an element that they have to protect their sport, and that's a lot of the tone that I love this. I love coaching young people and helping families and all that stuff and developing young men. He wants to continue doing that, and he likes the way it used to be.
Right.
He's Mike Irwin. Great week on Ask Mike. Some big-time games coming up from Arkansas basketball here on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Auburn. All right, have a good week.